Everyone. My name is Nikki Wetzel. I'm the Director of Communications and Advancement for Prosperity Connection, and we are so excited to welcome you to our second Facebook Live of the summer. This is all the stuff they don't tell you about homeownership. We talked last time about the home buying process and all the things that go into that, but we don't feel like people talk enough about all the things that you need to know about what it's actually like when you get in your home and are a homeowner. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And I have with me Robert Nelson. He is our Director of Coaching. Robert, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure thing. Thanks, Nikki. As Nikki said, I'm Robert Nelson. I actually been with Prosperity Connection since about 2017, and I started as a financial education coach, and slowly, just going through learning how to do coaching and learning how to help clients. That led to me becoming director of coaching in 2020, and at the end of 2020, and I've been director of coaching since. So here now, excited to be with you all and hopefully be able to share some experience, share a few laughs, and be able to chat.
Awesome. All right, let's get started. And by the way, Robert and I are both homeowners, so you might hear some personal stories from both of us. And all of these topics kind of come from our own personal experience.
Absolutely.
But we really want you to engage. So if you are interested in home buying, interested in becoming a homeowner, and there's something you've always wanted to know or something you're curious about, please pop those questions in the chat, and we will get to those. So let's start the conversation with the idea of home warranty slash home insurance, because I know that that can be really confusing, and that's a big deal. So why don't you talk a little bit about that first?
So, funny thing, I initially coming into my home, one of the very first pieces of advice I got was, "Oh, you need a home warranty. You have to get a home warranty." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll get to it. I'll get to it." When you're a new homeowner, you're still trying to figure out your expenses, still trying to figure out all these different bills. Me personally, I was coming from renting, and when you're renting, you don't have a water bill or a sewer bill, so getting all these new expenses were, I'm just trying to settle in to my expenses. So I didn't really focus on home warranty at first. But I knew I had homeowners insurance. So with homeowners insurance, that typically cover things that are going to keep you in the dwelling. If damage happens to your house from nature, from acts of God, from a tree, anything that can potentially have you without somewhere to live, homeowners insurance is meant to keep you in your home. Not necessarily meant to keep things in best condition. So, like, if you have a hot water tank go out, if you have a stove break, if you have a sewer drain back up, things like that typically are not covered. Now, there are some insurance companies that do offer facets of home warranties, and you can probably add those into your plan. So I'm not saying those don't exist, but for the vast majority, you will not get those. So that's where a good home warranty comes into play, because as those years continue to go for me, in the beginning I didn't get it, and I started to see some of those home ownership challenges, and it's different from renting. When you're renting and you have something happen with your electric and a few outlets aren't working, you call the landlord and say, "Hey, I got 5 outlets on this side of the house that's not working, and I don't know why." But when it's yours, you don't have anyone to call. You can call an electrician. They gonna charge you a few thousand to come out and figure out what's going on. So that home warranty immediately became important once I started to hit some of those trials as a homeowner. And let me tell you, when those maintenance things pop up that you didn't know about, you have no idea what you're willing to do until you have to do it. I'm gonna just leave it there. We might go into a story later, but I'm gonna just leave it there.
Oh, you're gonna tease him like that. Okay. Okay. We don't get a story yet. Okay, let's talk a little bit about. So I feel like that's kind of a natural segue. Let's talk about maintenance and upkeep and the reality of what that's like and how much it costs once you're in a home.
Oh my goodness. So I gotta get on my Ellen shirt now. Ellen. So, but no. So when we're talking maintenance, I'm gonna speak to my house. So when we first bought our house, I was in love with the home. I loved these big beautiful windows we had, and our yard was huge and fenced in, and it was beautiful. I was so excited about our house until as soon as we put our contract on a house, the owner stopped cutting the grass. So
All right.
literally, as soon as we put in that contract, they stopped cutting the grass. So we closed on the house, and which we closed probably like a month later, maybe a month and a half. And this is the middle of May when we closed. And we get to the house to move in, and it's a jungle. The grass is extremely long. That once beautiful yard and how huge it was and just so nice was a pain to cut
Mm-hmm.
because I was so blinded by how nice this house was and how nice this yard is. I didn't think about, how much is it going to cost to cut this big yard? How much time is it going to cost me?
Yep.
And effort is going to cost me if I cut it myself.
Especially in the middle of summer.
In the middle, on them 90-degree days, you out there busting sweats and got hats and gloves, and it's like full blown lawn service. So it took me probably all of the first year during summer to get a good cadence to where I got the grass done within a reasonable amount of time. And it's still pretty long. It probably to do my front, I do my yard myself because I just refuse to pay for it. To do my yard front and back is probably 2 hours. If I really want to get like really detailed, maybe 2.5. So it's for me. I come from city houses where your yard is like this big, so that's a really long
Yeah.
time for me.
Yep.
So, but little things like that, thinking about, or I even give you this: the first time it snowed really bad, and I have a fairly long driveway. I tell you, the driveway didn't look that long when I was buying a house, but when after that first snow, and me and my stepson getting out there with a shovel, and I was shoveling my little life away, and I remember stopping and being out of breath, like I think I'm about halfway through, and then I turned around, and I was barely even a third of the way through, and I was like, why do we have such a long driveway? So those things you got to think about as far as maintenance, and either ask yourself, am I prepared to handle this maintenance myself,
Yeah.
or am I prepared to pay for it?
Yep.
I will say, I'm gonna let y'all know up front. Come talk with one of our financial coaches. Express your interest in purchasing a home because we can talk you through some of those maintenance that you may not realize yet. Not owning a home, and then we can even help you browse and look up the average cost for those maintenance. So if it's like, well, I don't know how to clean gutters, I don't know how to service air conditioning units, and then we can look at what those things cost because a lot of the stuff you're gonna have to get done every year. So understanding this goes into your yearly budget and what is this going to cost to be able to do that.
Yep. And I'll say from my personal experience, so I've owned two homes now. My first home was built in 1955, and it was one of those with the big, beautiful yard, the big, beautiful trees that like are great and looked great. But one of the rude awakenings when we moved in, maybe 2 months after we moved in, our sewer started having issues and backing up, and we're like, what in the world is going on? And so we had to call Roto-Rooter out. The pipes, the sewer pipes were so old and our trees were so big, the roots were going through them, blocking the pipes. So we had to pay Roto-Rooter to blast them out so that we had a clear sewage pipe. And that was something that we had to plan for maintenance. And because that happened so quickly after we moved in, I was very, very young. I was 23 or 4 when I bought this house. So I didn't have reserves to pay for that. So I'm lucky enough that I was able to ask my mom and dad for a little bit of help. But I think it speaks to all these things we're talking about, speak to the idea of making sure that you have something in reserve to pay for those unexpected maintenance and upkeep that not everybody like warns you about and talks about. Like, it's really important. So yeah, there's closing costs and all the fees and stuff that Ben and I talked about last time of the home buying process. But once you're in that home, there are so many other costs that can and do come up that it's really important to have a reserve set aside so that you don't have to rely on a credit card or an emergency loan or something like that that won't have the best terms and that could get you in some trouble with debt.
I had to call Roto-Rooter too.
Roto-Rooter, they got to know them real well.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is another nice natural segue, talking about all the costs that you maybe don't necessarily think of, and having reserve and deciding what to pay for. Let's dive into essentials versus non-essentials. So the things that you may want to do and take care of right when you move in the house, but balancing that with the things that you absolutely need to have.
So this is so important because, especially when you're moving into a new home, you want to make sure that you have everything in place. So, not only from a personal standpoint have I started this process. Luckily I did not go all the way through because I had wise counsel. But also I have clients who we've helped buy homes, and then 2 months after they buy the home, they're like, Robert, I need a plan to knock out this credit card debt. And I'm like, what happened? Well, I wanted to get this couch, I wanted to get this, and
Yep.
so another piece of advice, and this was the wise counsel I got. I was so excited after buying my house, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I have older houses built in 1961, so a few
Okay.
years after your first house.
Yep.
And this house, I initially picked it because it had that old feel to it. It had the living room and the family room, and newer homes typically don't have
Yep.
both.
Yep.
And I like the combo because it reminds me of my grandparents' house where you come in and nobody sits in the living room. The living room is just there to look nice. Everybody goes to the family room.
Yep.
And so I just love that feel. It makes me think of my grandparents' house. So I knew that I wanted that. And I already had this vision for my living room because I wish I could show y'all the picture of the living room from like Zillow or something. But it's very long with huge windows in the front. So I saw this image of like Christmas time with this Christmas giant tree and with the grand piano and a nice setup, and I wanted it so bad. I priced the grand piano as soon as I moved in the house.
Do you even play the piano?
I do not play the
Oh,
piano. I
okay.
just
Okay.
knew how
Yeah.
nice that would look in that living room. And after pricing this grand piano, and it was fancy too, yeah. It was a player piano, and it was top of the line. I didn't realize it was top of the line because I don't play pianos, so I didn't know I was talking to top of the line piano people. And they let me know quickly that this piano was gonna cost another house. I think it was like $130,000 or something. And I was like, oh, you don't say. Well, that grand piano will be staying right there. And I remember talking to my uncle about all the stuff I'm trying to get and trying to do. And my uncle gave me one simple piece of advice. He said, slow down. What's
Mm.
your rush? You got 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that, it all came to me, and I said, why am I trying to do this so fast? We signed a contract for a 30-year loan. Now, obviously, the bank don't know I'm paying it off way sooner than that. But still, you got a nice amount of time you're going to be in this house.
Yep.
It's no rush in furnishing it right now. Take your time
Mm-hmm.
to worry about, because there are going to be some things in your house that you need to tend to as soon as you get there.
Yep.
No home is perfect when you buy it. There's always going to be something needing to be done. So tend to those things that are immediate issues, and some of those things that are just for looks or glitz and glam, save it for later. We've been in our house since 2020, and to this day, my living room is still being saved for that grand piano. It is still like to this. You look in them big windows. If you peek through the blinds, it's nothing in there because I'm waiting and saving for this piano. I will not get $130,000 grand piano,
No.
but it will be a nice one that's much cheaper than that.
Yep.
So take your time. If it's something, and to even if you're trying to determine if something is essential or not, if it will inconvenience your living situation or inconvenience your life living in this home, that's probably more immediate than something that's meant for fun or entertainment
Or keep you safe.
or
I'm
keep you
thinking
safe.
like smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. Like those aren't
Absolutely.
necessarily cheap, but there's something that like if you don't have them, you could be in danger and very inconvenient. So that's going to take precedence over like new
Mhm.
hardware on our kitchen cabinets or
Yep.
whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. And since we on the topic, go and change them smoke alarm batteries. I know a few of y'all watching right now with the beep in the background. It's probably at my house too. I ain't gonna lie to you. Go ahead and change some smoke alarm batteries.
I'm also thinking like I know something that got in my way, if I'm gonna be really blunt and honest, is like my pride and ego, especially with the second house. So my house now is a brand new build. And like Robert said, even a brand new build is not perfect right from the get-go. And so much of my pride and ego wanted to furnish it and decorate it and do all of the things right away. And it just literally was not possible. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, even with our reserves and whatnot. Like I've lived in that house now since, let's see, March of 2022. So about a year and a half, a little over a year, and
Hmm.
it is still not done. It is still not decorated. And on the inside, it drives me a little bit batty. But I just have to know that like things take time. Just really prioritizing like, okay, like you said, what's going to be super inconvenient if this doesn't happen? What's going to keep us safe versus is this just my pride and ego talking? Is this just a decorative piece that I want because I want people to walk in and Google my house?
Yeah, and I do want to add is I don't want this to sound like we're like trying to scare people away
Oh,
from
yeah.
home ownership,
No.
but this is literally just to prepare you and let you know that you might need to plan a little bit more.
Yeah.
You can plan to get those things. So what I've done, we have a board in the house and write things down on that
Mm-hmm.
board, make notes on the phone of like, okay, what is the focus this year? Because every year I like to focus on something that's
Yep.
not essential. So for instance, last year I bought a new bedroom set for me and my wife's bedroom because for one, if we paying the bills, I need to make sure my sleep is a priority. So I need a new bed. But and it's easier to focus on one thing at a time. So getting that new bedroom set and then saying, okay, well next year we'll focus on my daughter's room. Next year we'll focus on my son's room. Next year we'll get this piano for this living room.
Mm-hmm.
And you just take it one room at a time. By the time you look back, you know, the whole house is furnished, decorated, looks nice, and doing it one step at a time like that, you'll get to where you want to be. It won't be in a few months, but you'll get there.
Yep.
And it'll be safely with savings.
Yep. We do something really similar. So Amazon's kind of the bane of my existence, but I have an Amazon list of stuff for the house.
Yep.
And we set aside a certain amount of money every month into our high yield savings, and we kind of prioritize that Amazon list of like, okay, what's next? What do I want to splurge on now? What pillows do I want to buy now? What blanket? What espresso machine does my
Right.
husband want? And like once we then hit that amount in the savings, then we prioritize what we're going to knock off next. It's not the most fun, but it's responsible, and it's not the end of the world. And like Robert said, we are not trying to scare people away. I love being a homeowner.
Yes.
I love having my own space and not being beholden to a landlord. Like home ownership is great. We're just trying to help you think through all the things. And I saw a great comment from Juliana in the chat. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Habitat for Humanity,
Yep.
St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores, Goodwill, Salvation Army can help save thousands of dollars on
Yep.
all of these things that we're talking about. So don't be shy about checking out those places. Heck, I've heard stories about like Goodwill. Somebody told maybe the Goodwill in like Clayton or somewhere in that area. Half the stuff they found was brand new, like had hardly ever been used.
Yep.
So you can find some really, really great options that if you like thrifting and like more vintage stuff, there's space for that. But there's also like it doesn't thrift stores does not have to equal, and Goodwill does also not have to equal thrifting. Like you can
Yep.
find brand new modern stuff too. There's something for everybody in every style at those places, which is great.
Yeah, I use Facebook Marketplace a lot,
Yep.
especially if you take advantage of other folks who are trying to get rid of things quick. You can probably get really, really nice things for super cheap.
Yep.
I got my mom a washer and dryer for $70, and it lasted
That's
her a
wild.
while too.
That's wild.
The lady was like, "I got to be in Atlanta in 2 days,
Just got to
and
get
I
out of
need
here.
everything done." And when I
Yep.
got there, she was literally using the washer and dryer as as I got there to come get it. She's
Yeah.
like, "I'm gonna throw these in the dryer while y'all move the washer." I'm like, "At least we know it works." Like,
That's hilarious. I love it. Before we go to our next question, just a quick reminder that if you've got questions, things that you've always wondered about homeownership or whatever, please pop them in the chat. We would love to answer them. But I do have a few more topics that Robert and I can hit on in these last, let's see, like 10 minutes or so. Okay, let's talk about utilities and the
ooh,
cost of utilities and all the things that can bring up.
Lord, somebody tag Amber in the comments. But
Amber Spire, we're
right, please tag. Utilities are the one thing you have to think about. Fortunately, unfortunately, immediately because
Mhm.
bills start as soon as you switch everything over to your name, and those bills may change based off
Mhm.
your living situation. So once again, I'll use my story as an example. I came from a two-bedroom apartment to our four-bedroom home, which was way larger than our apartment. So the little 70, 80 bucks I was paying in a electric bill or gas bill turned into like 160, 170.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for those expense changes. So those first few months, outside, what I always suggest is outside of the essentials, try to keep your spending or free spending, like spending money and things that you just frivolously spending on. Try to keep that low, so because those expenses will change.
Yeah.
Once you kick that heat on, yeah, when you if you moved in the summertime, your gas bill was probably like 40, 50 bucks. But the minute you kick that heat on, that thing is gonna jump. So until you can understand the frequencies and oh, it's going to be this much in the summer, this much in the winter, then you want to keep your spending low until you learn the frequency. Once you learn the frequency, map your budget out accordingly, and then follow it from there. Or another thing, a lot of folks don't like this. I personally love it. You can do budget billing. Budget billing works very well for me because I don't have to think about those fluctuations in the bill because it's going to be the same thing every month. And then they let you know a month in advance when your bill is going to adjust, whether up or down. So, and the good thing is it's based off average. So instead of saying, oh man, last month's electric bill was crazy high, I need to cut off lights this month. Well, if it's off average, as long as I use less over the next few months, it will go down and then my payments will adjust. The good thing about budget billing is if you stay on top of it and you make sure you're keeping your payments adjusting down. When we moved, Ameren cut me a check for $250. Now I wanted them to put that towards my new electric bill, but they said they can't do that. So I,
Amron.
so I cashed it and still paid it to them anyway.
Yeah.
But they were able to cut me a check because I was ahead of my budget billing. So that's the other thing to keep in mind with budget billing. Whenever you turn off your account or you move or start a new account, they do, if it is behind, they're owed that at that moment. And if you are ahead, they pay you out at that moment. So just keep that in mind with budget billing. But outside of that, it is a really good tool if you plan on being somewhere permanently or at least for a long period of time.
Yeah. And I think this ties to connect a thread between 2 weeks ago, the home buying process, and today. When you're thinking about what you can afford and once you're in that home, like Ben mentioned last time, you may be given a certain amount that the bank will lend you, but you need to figure out what that monthly mortgage payment is going to be. But then when you think about the reality of home ownership, it is so much more than that individual mortgage payment. You need to do your due diligence to try to figure out how much more utilities and whatnot is going to add onto it. Because let's say you can afford $2,000 a month.
Yep.
Well, is that $2,000 a month just your mortgage and adding utilities on top of that is no big deal, or like 2,000 is my cap for all of my home expenses, so my mortgage actually needs to be more like 1,500 to give me that 500 to save for utilities. So that really comes into the affordability piece and as well, and deciding if it's something that you can do. Great question came in from the audience. So I'm going to interject that real quick.
Okay.
Do you have any advice on how to determine when to DIY home repairs versus hiring a professional? It feels like it can be really tempting to save money and do it yourself, but sometimes obviously that can lead to more issues financially. Do you have any advice for kind of determining that?
Absolutely. So my rule of thumb is it's all about comfort level. So you have to understand that different people will have different comfort levels. So you got to think about that for yourself first. What are you willing to try? What are you willing to potentially mess up? And what are you willing to pay for if you mess up?
Yeah.
So for someone who is like me, I have a pretty high comfort level. I feel like I went to YouTube University and I can watch a few videos and I got it. Yeah. If you are not that person, but you want to try DIY, because I'm not gonna lie to you, DIY is fun. You see the progress, and it's your home, so you get to make it exactly how you want it. But if you're that person, first thing I would say is try something that's easy and simple. Like, let's change the tile in the bathroom. It's a small area. If you have like a peel and stick tile, that's easy. Now, if you got like a ceramic tile, you probably want to try another room because getting it up is probably gonna be beyond your comfort level. But finding a small, easy project to start with, what that would do is build confidence. And it can be something like, oh, I'm going to paint my daughter's wall. You know, what color do you want this wall? And it's, oh, blue. So then you go and then you watch videos, you learn how to mask things off and how to start painting, stroke, how to put the painting on the wall and make sure that you're spreading it out evenly. Once you see that wall look nice, you're like, oh, I could probably paint a few walls in this house now.
Yeah.
So take it slow, start with things that are small. But now let's say you're hit with a huge project. First thing I would do if you want to DIY, I'm always a fan for DIY because it will teach you how to do it. Mm-hmm. And this not even on, this is a whole nother topic, but I honestly believe whenever you learn a skill, you now have a new way to build revenue because you know something that not everybody knows, which means somebody may be willing to pay you to do it. So DIY can essentially become a stream of revenue somewhere down the line. So I'm always for it. But then think about people in your circle. Who do I know who will be willing to help me? Yep. Who can teach me? And then all the exchange may be pizzas and a couple beers. The exchange may be you help me with this project, I'll come to your house, help you with the project. You know, you use the folks in your circle who have those skills and that don't mind helping you. Yeah. I actually last year, a buddy and myself, we built a bar in my basement, and it was such a long process. And bought all the wood myself, came up with design myself, and when he and I put it together, it was just so awesome to see this thing come to life. And I was like, oh my God, this has been on paper for 2 years, and it's here, it's mine. And so now every time I host anything, people are like, oh my God, this is such a nice bar. It's like, yep,
I did that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So it's take it by the horns, try it out, but just keep in mind your comfort level. Yep. And use that to determine how you move forward.
I like that a lot because painting a wall or maybe laying some peel and stick tile is a totally different adventure and journey than trying to do something with plumbing. I am not comfortable messing with the plumbing of my house, knowing that if it gets messed up, that could be a whole mess, and that it's probably going to cost a lot of money to come and change it versus painting daughter's wall. Oh, I hate blue now. Now I want it to be orange. Like, easy fix. Can of paint's a little expensive, but like that's an easy fix. Messing up plumbing, trying to do something with electrical is also just dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So, so I like that thought of like, okay, if I were to mess something up trying to do it DIY, would it be the end of the world? Would it be dangerous? Would it be expensive to fix versus not?
I wasn't even thinking about electric and plumbing. I was thinking about just like building stuff. Yeah. Whenever you're dealing with electric and plumbing, seek out professionals because
or go to your circle, because what I'll say is like my dad's kind of a jack of all trades and I'm very, very lucky. Like he's obviously my core circle, so when I do need something plumbing, electric, like as long as it's basic, I've got someone in my circle that can handle. And then if it's roto-rooter, then I've got to go call to get that out.
If it's busting up pipes out the floor, I'm not doing it. No way.
Laying new tile, putting some wallpaper up. We got that. Yep. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and we've got a couple more minutes left. So I think the last thing on our topic, and I think we've kind of addressed this a little bit already, but if you want to just wrap it up by talking about the right now, the immediacy versus the longevity. So to give y'all an example, like kind of your idea about the yard, like right now in the moment of like home buying, seeing that big yard is so exciting. I love a big yard. I love these big trees. They're beautiful. Okay, longevity, how much time and effort is it going to take me to mow? And I'm like, I don't want to do that when it's 95 degrees outside. Mm-hmm. So I know that was like one example you gave earlier, but do you have anything else in that idea of like not getting caught up in the moment, but thinking about the long term as well?
Absolutely. So one big thing I did, and this was actually some advice that came from our realtor, it was to map out your house before you start looking for homes. So everything you want, everything you desire, during that process of mapping things out, helped me kind of see what could happen in that process. So when I'm thinking about yards and thinking about, oh, I knew for a fact I did not want a yard with a hill because I had already thought about it. I was like, I plan on cutting my own grass. Hills suck. I don't want a yard with a hill. Yep. So you can start to think about that prior to. And then as you go and see the house, I always try to take someone with you who's like just a realist. They're gonna think about everything in reality. They're a very straightforward person. Take that person and your realtor to go look at homes. Because while you're in La La Land, like, can't you see it? My couch is here. They're like, I see this hairline crack that's right here that come from the roof and blah blah blah. And people like that can point out stuff like, oh, this tree is already large and you just got here. Which means in 30 years, if you don't do anything about it, it's going to be humongous. Mm-hmm. What do you plan on doing about this tree? Mm-hmm. Those are things you want to think about early on, because that tree that when you first bought the house could have been 5 or 6K to cut down. 20, 30 years later, maybe 12 to 18,000 to cut down. Or even have hazardous of falling on your home or someone else's home, and it just becomes a pain. And not to mention, as Nikki said, trees mess up your plumbing, trees mess up your concrete, your foundation. If you see a big tree
right close to the house, I'd be asking a lot of questions.
Don't get no big tree. They get all in your gutters. They attract critters. You just leave the trees alone.
I love trees, but I do get it. Several right in the vicinity of the house. I mean, my first house had two in the front, and I think at least two gorgeous, huge, fully mature trees. And I mean, dumped all their leaves and all of the little helicopter thingies in the gutter.
Oh,
I'm partnered. I have a husband, bless him. He does all that. But still, like, it was inconvenient. He had to get out the ladder and clean out the gutter. And they were huge, so they would drop a ton of leaves in the fall. I mean, our yard would probably have 2-3 inches of leaves. So, raking most of those up and finding a place to, mulch and dispose of those was a whole thing. So the trees were beautiful, but that many caused a lot of issues. So you just have to, again, weigh the cost, weigh what I like that you keep going back to comfort, because it really ultimately comes down to that, I think, like what you are comfortable with doing and not doing as a homeowner, hiring, as a homeowner, whatever that looks like.
I'm going to end it with this. I hate getting up leaves. And this year, we got a leaf vacuum.
Oh.
It is the best thing since sliced bread. You get all your leaves in a pile, and then you put that leaf vacuum on there and suck up all the leaves. It mulches the leaves in a bag for you. And then when the bag is full, the leaf vacuum will cut off. You take the bag off, dump it into your yard waste, attach it back, and finish the rest. Beautiful. It's beautiful. It mulches
there you go. The trees aren't so bad.
Still. Don't mess with them trees if you want to.
Just kidding. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, it is, we went a little bit over. 12:49. I don't see any additional questions in the chat. So thank you so much for joining us live, talking about some of the stuff people don't always talk about or think about when it comes to home ownership. This video and 2 weeks ago about the home buying process are going to be pinned to the top of our Facebook profile. So if you want to come back and listen to this again, if you missed 2 weeks ago and want to check that out, it will be there. And let's see, 2 weeks from now, on July 12th, we will be joined by Sasha and Heather, and they're going to be talking, they're going to be busting common myths about credit. So same time, same place on July 12th, talking all things credit. And I think I would be doing us a disservice if one more time I didn't say all of this stuff is a lot to think about. Please come seek us out if you would like some help thinking through the home buying process, figuring out how to budget for all of those expenses. Our financial coaches are excellent at that and would be more than happy to help you. So you can find our website through our Facebook, or you can go to prosperityconnection.org and sign up for services, and we would be so glad to help you. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
See ya.